Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to another Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is number 86 for August 12th, 2025. We are rolling through this year. But Kevin, you how are you going to change my mind this time around?
Well, let's jump into the blender, or the chipper, depending on your point of view, and touch upon, the mix of redemption in our facilities as an entertainment industry. Is it time that we really look at the mix? Do we need as much redemption? Is redemption good for our industry, or is it a crutch that we lean on because it is a known entity that we work on? I know many manufacturers of redemption systems will now be throwing various items at the screen, but the old adage of using this technology just because it works, the old approach to the tickets, even now the tickets are being migrated onto smart card systems, but it's still a ticket based. Are we endangering ourselves by depending so much on an entertainment system that could be cancelled? There is a very thin line we walk where one day a family, parents group, or someone feels that it is bad to have gambling kinds of, as certain people have called, kiddie casino kinds of machines in their facilities, is a bad influence. And that all it will take is one backlash against this in one state or one country, and then suddenly the whole of our ball of wax will implode upon itself because we have built everything on a foundation of redemption.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one for me. It's certainly not a question that I've wanted to wrestle with. I think you just sometimes you see things and they just are working, and they seem to have been working for many years. And surprisingly, this is one of those areas that continues to work. We talk about facilities needing to evolve their attraction mix, evolve what they're doing to make sure it's staying current. And while the games are evolving and the interactivity is evolving, the actual core principle of a redemption game hasn't significantly evolved in 40 years. And that is, 40 plus years, right? But yes. I mean, this is This
is the carnival system written into a into a vending system. It's sort of the vending industry sidled up to the carnival, worked out how to automate everything, so you didn't need a barker, you didn't need sawdust on the floor or a tent, and then suddenly we have these machines. I was actually at the opening of Fair Games, the second facility in London, and fundamentally the entertainment that they're offering is a version of the funfair and the carnival. And then take that one step further, that funfair and carnival gamification has been boxed into a redemption machine.
Yeah. Well, and we've even seen a few facilities with their cranes, going back almost to the old carnival carny ways, midway game way. You win a smaller prize in these smaller cranes, and you can collect the smaller prizes and upgrade them to a larger plush or a larger prize at the redemption counter. And so somewhat similar also to the old game where you get a dart and throw it at the balloon on the wall. And if I get enough balloons popped, I get a smaller animal, and then I can, upgrade that to the bigger animal over time. So yeah, we are fundamentally in the same industry, and the core principles, the core business model hasn't changed. And I do wonder when that will actually run into a wall, either because of regulation, because of cultural shifts, or just because of interest shifts, and what kids are actually interested in, or what is driving their behavior on the game floor. So this is something that is worth considering and worth really doing some navel gazing about, to determine whether or not there's not a potential different business model out there that could be more long-term, more viable in the long term, but also more vibrant in the long term as well.
I'm keen, I like to have belt and braces. I feel that if you're depending on one particular platform too much, then you've got problems. Oh, here we go. The amusement police has just turned up.
Yeah, they're coming up. They're coming to take you away.
Yeah, back for the second time. The issue for many of us is if these machines became unpopular due to a social reversal, and that can happen in a matter of days, let alone hours. One day we wake up and the whole landscape has changed against allowing kids to be influenced by this gaming approach. What would we fall back to? We don't have a lot of alternatives to fall back to. And so that, again, would be, echoing what you were saying, that it is needed to, look in our navel and come out not just with fluff, but to come out with an idea of what would be our alternative to redemption. Again, I know a lot of companies that do a lot of investigation into the social aspects of why we play, how we play, and they, the carnival and the fun fair is the fundamental, the caveman approach to us enjoying ourselves, learning and experiencing as a group. But it doesn't always need to be down the clown or big bass wheel that engenders that kind of experience.
All right. Well, now that we've just named a couple of specifics there, well, let's dive into. Let's take a quick break and then dive into the latest trends.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Well, moving on, and we'll look at the trendings in the business at the moment. And the big news that is hitting us is the announcement of the drop in attendance that Six Flags has experienced across its operation during its second quarter. They tried to put a spin on this to blame it on poor weather in certain areas, but as their sprawling 27 facility park and 15 water park operation covers so much of the states, it's hard to just blame bad weather in one particular area as impacting all of this. It hit the markets hard. Their stock price took a tumble based upon this information, and their long-standing CEO, who'd been with the company for the last 38 years, decided also to take this time to step down from his position, which will become, he will actually be leaving at the end of this year. So again, a major black eye, I think, all round for Six Flags. And, a lot of people worked very hard to try and pick some positivity out of their announcement, which was very hard to find.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, look, we had certainly bizarre and inclement and hot weather over the course of this first half of the year, but I don't know that weather alone can account for a 10%. I'm rounding up, right? But let's call it a 9% drop in attendance for a single quarter. Especially when you have such a diverse set of parks across the U.S. that have different weather and everything else. 10% across, all of them being impacted by weather just doesn't seem quite. It doesn't seem like everything adds up. That being said, do we know, is this just this, like sometimes, as we talk about with Dave and Buster's, they forget to mention Main Event. Is this just the Six Flag locations that have seen the 9% drop, or is this the Six Flags organization that includes the Cedar Fair locations that were a part of that acquisition?
Sadly, at the time of going live with this information, that granular detail hadn't been revealed. Their press release was very sparse on detailed information, and I think we know the reason why.
Yeah, and again, it's probably very much like the Dave and Buster's Main Event, where they tend to just bury the lead, so to speak, and Cedar Fair may be doing okay in their locations, but that the Six Flags brand and their particular style of amusement park is what's struggling.
And they're not really answering a lot of questions at the moment. Whoever comes in next, the new CEO, is going to be picking up a lot of pieces and is going to have to bring in a dynamic team. Remember, it's only a matter of months since they've gone through the restructuring of their operation following the acquisition, which many of us felt was taking its own sweet time to actually acclimate. And now they're going to have to go through this process again with a new CEO who will bring in their own unique charms and requirements. And for all we know, by the end of this year, when we get the next data from Six Flags Operation or Six Flags Entertainment, that we will be finding other impacts in their attendance numbers. Or everything could be sunny in the beach and we'll see an increase. But my gut feeling is that they are really feeling the growing pains of merging this monster together. Moving on, and more acquisition news. Our friends at Lucky Strikes Strike, I must be clear about that, have gone through and cherry-picked at this point about 5 key facilities that were previously owned by Palace Entertainment, had been acquired by Henchend, and now are going to be rolled into the Lucky Strike operation. So they take up a couple of the Boomers, they take one of the Castle Parks, and then they get the Wet and Wild and the Ranging Waters operations in California, being rolled under the Lucky Strike operation, which is now seriously showing its colors of wanting to be a Six Flags competitor. Maybe they want to have parks, they want to have water parks, they still want to push their bowling and their FEC business. It's interesting to see Bolero, as was, moving so fast towards trying to become a world dominating operation.
Know if it's world dominating, and I honestly don't know that they have a real cohesive strategy here. I think Hershend was looking for a fire sale. I think they didn't know what they were really acquiring by acquiring.
Well, they found out the hard way and they wanted to get rid of it.
So these old poorly managed Boomers locations, and this seems to be an acquisition of opportunity. Maybe very similar to when they acquired, we talked about their acquisition of the Visalia Adventure Park, which we had quite a number of conversations about because it was totally off the mark from where they've been in acquiring bowling centers, right? I mean, Lucky Strike, which was below or before, was just into acquiring bowling centers until they went and acquired Mavericks and Octane Raceway in Scottsdale, which really began to make that shift beyond just pure bowling-based FECs to acquiring with the Octane Raceway component of Mavericks, to acquiring a go-karting facility with some amusement and with a zero latency VR component to it, and that's it. And that was a part of that acquisition. And now they're acquiring adventure parks and water parks. What this says is that they are doing what we have, or at least I have asserted, which is that they're a public company that needs to continue to show top-line growth, and they need to show revenue growth, even if it means that the individual locations are losing revenue, are declining in year-over-year same venue sales. But as long as they keep acquiring facilities, then they're going to keep showing that top line growth. And that, I think, is, if anything, if there's any cohesive strategy, that is probably what Lucky Strike is doing here.
Very dangerous, incredibly dangerous. If that is what they're doing, just a colloquial phrase would be, you've got a rotten egg in your omelette and you're just putting more eggs in to try and hide the problem. The issues here are, this is out of their bailiwick, out of their comfort zone, some of these acquisitions. If they can't look after their core bowling operation and they just think that rebranding themselves Lucky Strike and taking on some parks and some resorts, some water entertainment is going to cover up the previous problems that they've had, then they will be mistaken. And at some point in time, they will have to pay the piper. Sorry to use all of these, but it is just fair that at some point in time, they are going to have to take a cold, hard look at themselves and sort out their house and address all of this confused mix that they're building, or they will just crumble from the inside out.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say here, at least at this point, I'm sure we're going to be having another conversation about Lucky Strike in the future,
Yes.
is, look, if they wanted to acquire the 3 parks that are quote-unquote indoor-outdoor FECs, the Boomers and the Castle Park, and even the Adventure Park, Visalia, I'm like, okay, I could see that as a potential stretch. You're now moving into multi-attractions. You're moving into indoor-outdoor. You're dealing with concession karting, which is different than even indoor karting, right? Because you've got the gas vehicles versus electric vehicles. There's some differences there in maintenance and in everything else. But then to make the shift into water parks, you're an indoor location-based entertainment, bowling-based culture, bowling-based infrastructure, bowling-based operations. To move into water parks is fundamentally different and is a significantly different lift in how you have to manage, how you have to hire, the liability, the training, the maintenance, operations, everything is different about running and operating a water park. And this is one of the things I think that Boomers, which back in the day when it was Apex, struggled with, was they had this really broad mix of parks, and it's difficult to manage that. And Lucky Strike is going to learn this the hard way with these 2 water park acquisitions.
Not knowing your history or ignoring your history is going to bite them in the butt. If they don't understand the history of what led to Boomers being in the position that it is now, and the complexity of a multidisciplined entertainment operation, library of facilities, is very dangerous. And I'm sure we will be speaking about this again, though I get the feeling that this isn't the end of the acquisition mode.
No.
There's a lot more Palace Entertainment sites that they could take off of the company's hands and make them very happy. Talking about franchises and talking about expanding your empire, and we have had a spurt over the last 7 or 8 months from our friends at Sandbox. And I just wanted to encapsulate the number of franchise territories that have been handed over by Sandbox to franchisees. There is a snapshot of the main announcements that the operation has been doing since the beginning of the year. This is seriously interesting. The hard-worn term that I use during these presentations, but this is incredibly interesting as a snapshot of franchising business regarding a single entertainment source, location-based entertainment operation. Each one of those territories sold means that the owner in Tennessee or in Texas or wherever, or Houston or wherever, has control of a certain space around their site, meaning that no one else can open up a Sandbox VR facility within that territory. And some of these are multiple territories owned by multiple venues, but some of them are multiple territories owned by single venue source franchisees facilities. This is going to be fascinating to watch of how each one of these territories generates gold for their owners, how each one of these will generate the right amount of money to pay off the franchise costs and pay off the staffing and pay off the rent and all of that. Will this be enough to generate the revenue that these guys are hoping to achieve from paying for the ownership of these territories?
Yeah. Wow. Well, good on whoever is their head of franchising at Sandbox VR. They're doing a very good job. They're probably making their commissions, and so good for them. We'll have to wait and see. I know we're still relatively early in the Sandbox VR franchise world. I am nervous. I am nervous about this. I am nervous for these franchisees and for this. I think Sandbox VR as a standalone concept is a house of cards, and I do worry that that the house of cards will eventually collapse. It may not be in 3 years. It may not even be in 5, and hopefully by the time it does, at least these franchisees have been able to make their money back and generate some revenue from it. But I do think that it's an inevitability that we will see either this collapse or be folded into something else.
I'm a little bit more positive about what I think the future will be, but it still heads towards the same situation. It's a house of cards, though I'm sure once they've achieved certain momentum, they can either float the operation and then look for acquisition and be merged into a larger corporation who can then take on the daunting task of trying to sort out the mix. But I could be putting up a list of quite a few franchisee sites that our friends at Zero Latency have achieved. So they're not the only ones by any means, but it is still something to keep a very close eye on regarding the temperature of the industry and how fruitful this kind of business can be for franchisees' operations. I had the chance of speaking to a budding, growing franchisees operation. I was contacted with the Continue Arcades guys. We talked about them in a opening and shut. And there's also some news that needed to be shared, that they have opened 2 sites so far, and they have seen quite a successful rollout of their unique interpretation of the retro arcade facility. And they've just signed a deal towards opening 10 new franchises of this concept in the south of England. This is quite a momentous move. They have a very smart franchising team on board as their advisors, and they've managed to place what I would say is a medium-scaled retro arcade concept as a franchise package that will be rolled out in this particular territory. I got a little bit of transparency towards how their machines work and how they've been operating their business. They are one of these sites where you go in, load a card, play on the machines after a certain period of time, and then, get thrown bodily out of the facility once the card stops operating. They haven't gone for a F&B model, and they're going for a very unique approach of how they get their hands on the amusement equipment that they're putting into their facilities. A lot of this is second-hand facilities where a facility has found it difficult to operate amusement machines, and they walk in and pick up these equipment and then clean them up and repurpose them for their facility. This is a major step up from running two sites to now expanding to 20 franchise sites, but this will be one to keep a very close eye on regarding how this brand grows within the UK market as well as its international aspirations.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I mean, so first of all, you sort of answered, but I'm sure we don't want to give away whatever proprietary information they have. But you answered the main question I had, which is how, when they're franchising, can they guarantee a set of amusement machines, right? Games, retro, especially retro arcade games, to go into these facilities, given the fact that there isn't a continued manufacturing source for these retro games. I mean, that's what makes them retro. And so
they're not all retro is the answer to that question.
Okay.
What I call retro, what you call retro may not be what they call retro. And it is clear that they are placing amusement machines in a facility that is offering a retro play. They even have retro console games that you can play on. So they are a mix of both consumer game retro play as well as amusement game retro play. And it is interesting how much their model doesn't really differ that much from, I would say, the 4 quarters or the N64s or the barcades of this world, but it is in the execution and the application. They're a company very focused on the happiness of their players, but also the happiness of their franchise owners. It's going to be fascinating to watch them roll out these 10 facilities in the next couple of months.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say, I was just scrolling through their drink and snack menu. They have 2 snacks, mostly and it's all canned drinks, canned or bottled drinks. But the one thing I noticed is that they have unlimited popcorn. And the one thing that most FECs, and I would think most arcades would say, is the one snack that they will never have in their facility is popcorn. And that is the one snack that they do have, unlimited popcorn.
Unlimited.
They are going to be vacuuming up popcorn for the rest of their life. So if you want to have popcorn, great. But you're going to have to deal with the fallout, literally, of having unlimited popcorn in your arcade facility.
I would build a whole floor on a grate. I would lift the floor up and have mesh which you walk upon, and then all the popcorn can be then sucked up by a special underfloor system. You're showing your operator credentials by honing in on that particular problem. The popcorn. I had to ask them some serious questions about maintenance, and maintenance is a big issue with them. They spend a lot of cycles keeping these machines going, even the more modern of the systems that they're operating. And when you're running this many facilities with this type of machine approach, you're really going to be burning the midnight oil.
Yeah.
Some more expansion news, which is par for the course in this kind of climate of industry. Once you've opened your facilities, you can then go to the money men, and the money men then see that you have a proven model, hopefully if you hide the figures correctly, and then they give you the cash to roll out more sites. And so our friends at Little Lion Entertainment, they've had their success with their Chaos Carts. They have their success with the first of their arena arcade facilities, which are running the Puckman live experience. But also, we have to be mindful that Little Lions also has experience in their escape room business through their Crystal Maze projects. But either way, they've just now announced that they're going to be opening 3 new facilities on top of their announcements. So they already have 2 sites open. They were going to be going for a third with their London site. Now that London site will be joined by a second London site, and then another site in the north of England within the next 2 to 3 years. So this is their immersive projection mapped experience, what they have defined as arena arcade, now being rolled out as a multi-venue operation. And the skies are the limits for what they want to achieve. And then we've mentioned Stack before, the container park. There's also Box Park, which is the competitor to this concept. Grab a whole load of out-of-date shipping containers, weld them together, turn each one of these containers into either a food or an entertainment or a retail component. Our friends at Stack just about to open their latest site, their Newcastle site, and now they've announced that they've received significant investment towards rolling out more of these facilities within the UK. And it's been clear that the concept that they're rolling on will now purposely include a competitive socializing element. So the last time we reported on Stacks was their competitive socializing venue in Blackpool, I think it was, had just been given the green light to stay permanent and actually be a permanent fixture. That will be a permanent fixture across all of their operation.
Yeah, and this is these Stack facilities are heavily they're also heavily dependent on just creating a party and social vibe and atmosphere. So, which again, I lean heavily sometimes on the branding side of things. I don't get that from the branding. The branding feels very real estate to me, right? It feels very stale.
Yes.
But when you go into their facilities, they are, again, intended to be this like food hall party vibe. They've got live stage with live music. And so that's all well and good, but that means you have to keep those bands coming in. You make sure you have to make sure there's a steady flow of people coming in because you want that to feel that vibe. And it is, so it is really dependent on making sure that their marketing is driving a heavy number of people in order to give that social and party vibe. And the brand is not helping with that. And so I do hope that they are able to manage that.
From where I'm recording this particular sound off, if I leaned out the window, I could actually see a box park. I'm that close to one of those facilities, and I've been keeping a very close eye on it while I've been here, seeing how they operate it, because they also have included one of the first of the Playbox social entertainment components to this mix. And it is clear, as you said, that live music, that social entertainment party vibe is essential to the operation. The number of times that the box parks has been closed off for a private function where the whole of the space is being utilized for a party event of some sort tells me that a lot of what makes these container entertainment facilities work is that social, private hire, entertainment, live performance, food availability kind of mix. And I don't know who the equivalent is in North America of Stack or Box Park, but I wouldn't be surprised about this kind of approach appearing near a car park near you, or parking lot near you. We will have to see how many of these facilities they can open in the UK, because they're now going to be directly competing against each other, and how much they're going to pivot their models to include more of a competitive socializing element to their food and live performance mix. And then finally, to wind up on the trends, and it is the inclusion of IP and well-known movie into the immersive shared reality entertainment space. Our friends at COSM have followed up the success of their Matrix film experience on their dome screen. I know for me, it's too early to say if it's been a success for their Matrix, but they have decided to move from the joys of the Matrix to the joys of the Candyland. And Willy Wonka has been upscaled and enhanced and will be the next film for their shared reality performance on their system. And I know that they have another major film property that they're going to be announcing as part of this rollout. We're into early days with COSM. They only have 2 facilities operational. Their 3rd one comes on stream soon. Their 4th and 5th ones have been announced, but to move from the Matrix to Willy Wonka is an interesting move. Is this something they're using to fill in the quiet periods between sporting events? I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. Or is this a requirement, is part of their Warner Brothers contract to use this IP or to deploy this particular film? I don't know, but this is a giant miss as far as I'm concerned. Look, I'm a fan of this movie. I think Gene Wilder's phenomenal, and he did an excellent job. This is a classic.
No, stop. Don't.
Yeah. Yes, I mean it is a classic film. So has nothing to do about the film itself. Has everything to do with the venue, the viewing venue, and the immersive aspect of the venue. Something that Matrix fits very well with that type of immersed experience. Watching some old people in a bed together on a giant screen is not necessarily, I think, conducive to the COSM atmosphere.
I wonder if they're going to offer themed food that coincides with the action. Halfway through, you've got some lickable wallpaper to consume. It's an interesting one. I'm fascinated about what the next film will be, and this is very early. Understand, COSM has signed major deals with sporting fixtures to be able to show NBA basketball and American football from certain venues. They have signed big deals with Cirque du Soleil to be able to show screenings of Cirque du Soleil events. To now add films to that could be seen as obvious, but the Matrix was presented as it was going to be a totally unique experience where the domed environment would add to the presentation of the film. And from those that saw it, I heard good things about it. Are you going to be able to do that with Willy Wonka? I am not sure, unless you do a spin on the hospitality side, which again, I'm not sure if that is the path that they're going through. But it is early days, and they're only 2 facilities in, but we're seeing this kind of momentum. And then a blast from the past. While I was doing some research, I was informed that our friends at Illuminarium had also done a major tie-in with a major brand. They've sat down with the Rolling Stone magazine and created a Rolling Stone experience for their venues. Now, interesting, we're down to only 3 Illuminarium facilities still operational now, and Illuminarium is on my watch list at the moment regarding its viability in the market. And this piece of news that's happened many weeks ago, nearly 2 months ago, went straight past my radar, went underneath the radar like a stealth fighter. I had no knowledge of this until I started doing some back research into what was happening with COSM. So we have the Rolling Stones experience, we have the Elvis experience, we have the ABBA experience. That live music, immersive environment vibe is definitely gaining momentum. I'm just wondering if this is going to be enough to save Illuminarium, and I'm going to try it. We'll have to make a point of trying to stick our heads in to the Illuminarium facility at Area 15 when we're next out there.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the facility Area 15 will have this particular Rolling Stone Presents exhibition, because I think this is maybe not that
only for the Atlanta.
Yeah, and not that I think that this will save Illuminarium by any stretch of the imagination, but this is a good move. I think this has potential, given the mixed medium that their facilities are, and being able to appreciate both the visual aspects of a Rolling Stone magazine along with the musical aspects of just the genre that magazine covers. And so I am interested to see what this experience is like.
Depends on how much marijuana smoke they blow through the whole of the facility.
Well, I mean, that's essential. You have to have that.
I was looking at this and I was thinking, well, if you're going to do Rolling Stone, and if you can work out the hospitality correctly and the environment, then you should do Playboy next. And if you're going to do, just go the whole hog, go through the whole of the periodicals, as it were.
Yeah, Hustler magazine presents.
Just keep on doing. You hit the nail on the head. Will this be enough to save Illuminarium Atlanta, or is this just a one-off a grab at survival, or is this something that's going to be shown across all of their other sites? We've already touched upon what happened with the Chicago Illuminarium and the mess that ended up being. They are in a position where they need to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and this is a very interesting shaped rabbit.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for me regarding the major developments. Please make sure that you're still receiving your Stinger and your Entertainment Social Arena. Be sure to give us some likes and some love. And remember that you can listen to all of that on audio. And if you have any questions or information, please hit us up on the email. Anyway, Brandon, that's it from me. Have I missed anything?
No, I think it was another great sound off, and already, looking forward to the next one as usual.
Have a good one.